up, y'all? It's Ty back here with another video, and in this video today, guys, we're gonna be going over and ranking each and every number 2 overall pick in every single draft since what, 1976, I do believe, maybe 77 from the ABA-NBA merger. Some of these recent guys, you guys can see there's some booms with guys like KD. LaMarcus Aldridge was a good number 2 overall pick. And then some busts. Michael Beasley, Hasheem Thabeet, Evan Turner, Derek White. Like, you got a lot of just busts as well, which is ultimately going to make this fun. Our first player here is a guy by the name of Scott May, who was not good in his career. Had a short stint in professional basketball before going overseas, I should say. Just not very good. I'm going to throw him a D tier, pretty much bust for Scott May. Otis Birdsong up next, a 4-time All-Star, had about a 10, 11, 12-year NBA career. Was just a really solid player. I think B tier is the right spot for him. I think career average 19 points. Next up, guys, we've got Phil Ford. Now, this is an interesting one here, who in his rookie season finished 8th in MVP voting, was very good, but his career was so short, man. So I think B tier is where I've got to go. At his peak was probably better than Otis Birdsong, but just had a short career overall. With the second pick in the 1980 draft, the Utah Jazz selected Daryl Griffith, who had a really solid career in his early stages, had a foot injury, I do believe, which just kind of derailed his later seasons. I still think B tier is the right tier for Daryl Griffith. Isaiah Thomas was a 12-time All-Star. Do I need to say anything more, or is he just a shoe-in at S tier? That's where I'm putting him, and I don't need to talk too much. If you don't know Zeke, you don't know ball. One of the more underrated guys on this list, Terry Cummings, an 18-year career, had some really solid seasons in his prime. I'm going to go A tier with Terry Cummings because, again, in his prime was really good, had an 18-year career, and for the number 2 overall pick, if you can get a guy like Terry Cummings, I think you'll take it. In the 1983 draft, the Pacers selected Steve Stipanovich, who honestly had a short career. A weird knee injury derailed his career, but in his prime, in his first couple of years in the league, was really solid, had a lot of promise, just had a short career. The 10-year career of Sam Bowie, I think, is one that can be just described as mediocre. Maybe never was as good as Steve Stipanovich. I might go D tier with Sam Bowie. He just never really did anything. He had a couple of years which he was okay, but he was just okay. Not what you want out of the number 2 overall pick. I'll leave him at C tier for now. Wayman Tisdale had a really solid and long career in the NBA. Was he ever elite as Terry Cummings? Maybe not. But I think he's, up there with probably Otis Birdsong at B tier, being on that type of level. We might have to eventually move guys like Sam Bowie down because I don't know. For Wayman Tisdale to be on the same tier as some of these other guys, I don't know about, because he was really, really good. And his career never was that elite level. Next up, Len Bias, guys. I don't feel comfortable ranking him, man. Rest in peace, Len Bias. One of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. A really sad and tragic story. Rest in peace, Armin Gillum died after having a heart attack after playing basketball at the age of 47, and his NBA career was really solid. A long NBA career throughout, was a really, really good player. B tier, again, a lot of these guys, there's no highlights, but if you're a number 2 pick and you're a really solid player over a solid career, I gotta give you some respect. B tier. Standing at 7'4", Rick Smits had a career I really do respect. You see all these giants nowadays that just have short careers. That's not Rick Smits. Had a long career in his prime at the age of 31, which is crazy being that tall. Danny Ferry, the only reason I know you is because in 2K22 you had the best jump shot in the game. In real life, you ran wind sprints, did a whole lot of nothing. D tier. Gary Payton was a top 10 player throughout basically his entire career, over like a 10-year stretch, probably even in that top 5 area. The glove, one of the best perimeter defenders, man. S tier, right up there with Zeke. Now, Kenny Anderson, obviously compared to Gary Payton, wasn't great, but for a number 2 pick, he was fine, especially in his younger career. He had a long career in his younger days in the league. I'm going B tier. I think he was a solid NBA level starting point guard. For number 2 pick, not too bad. Alonzo Mourning. While doing research for this video, I didn't realize Alonzo Mourning was as dominant as he was. He almost won the MVP a couple of different times. And maybe I'm an NBA casual because I did not realize how good Alonzo Mourning truly was. S tier for a number 2 draft pick. Sean Bradley in his career was okay, but I gotta go C tier. Never really panned out. Never really even had a great season. And it's hard because he's tall, he had to battle injuries. It just never really was a great NBA career for Sean Bradley. I'm surprised he stuck around for as long as he did. Jason Kidd, the 10-time All-Star, almost winning MVP as well. I gotta go S tier. You got definitive tiers. Jason Kidd is more on the Gary Payton type level than anything else. And honestly, I think the two pretty similar. Both great defense players, offensively pass the ball pretty well. S tier for J Kidd. Now might win an NBA championship as a coach. It's been a pretty common thing, but Antonio McDyess in his young career was so good, so promising. I'd want to go B tier, and I'm going to leave him at B tier. But injuries derailed his career. Had so much promise in the league, had an injury, and just never was the same. I think people sleep on the 17-year career of Marcus Camby, a dominant defender in his prime. Just kind of for a number 2 pick isn't flashy, but is what a number 2 pick should be. A really solid NBA player. Now, Keith Van Horn didn't have a super long career, but had a great career, averaging 16.7 rebounds throughout his career. Again, retired, I think, or was out of the league by the age of 30, but in his younger career was really good. Mike Bibby, I think, is a level above the guys at B tier. Was a top 15 player in the league. He finished 14th in MVP voting in one of his seasons. Statistically very good, putting up some big time numbers in his prime, and had a long career as well. Now you see people, players after the age of 30, 31, start that downward type of trend, especially back then. Mike Bibby fit that narrative, but in his prime was so elite. Steve Francis is another one. It's like in his prime at minimum A tier, and I'm gonna leave him at A tier. Won Rookie of the Year, made 3 All-Star games. It just didn't last super long, and it's just one of those things. He had an 8-year career, but in that career, especially in the early stage of it, was so good. For a number 2 draft pick, Steve Francis, the franchise was elite. Now, Stromile Swift is the definition of what you don't want your number 2 overall pick to turn into. Was out of the league in, 8 years, and throughout those 8 years was just never more than a role player. Tyson Chandler won a DPOY, he was an all-star, and he had a good, maybe great career. It's just tough. How do I compare the career of Tyson Chandler to Steve Francis? I think Tyson Chandler is perfect for B tier, right there with Marcus Camby. Had similar types of careers, and honestly, I don't know. You guys can be the judge who had a better career, but I do think they both belong at B tier. Jay Williams had a solid rookie season. I'm going to put him at D tier. Suffered a crazy accident that really never allowed him to play in the NBA again. Another one of those big what-if situations, but since he did play in the NBA and since it's not like, a tragic accident, he did survive, I'm going to rank him at D tier just because he wasn't a great NBA player. Darko, F tier. I'm not even going to sit here and get into it. If you draft Darko with the number 2 pick, you need help. Yikes, our first F tier player. Emeka Okafor in his early career was so solid and so consistent as a big man in the league. Suffered some neck injury problems and never was the same. I think at the age of 27, basically had played all of his best NBA basketball. It's just so sad when I'm doing this list, all the injuries these players suffer. Now, Marvin Williams is an interesting one because I'm going to put him at B tier. He was maybe never good as Emeka Okafor, maybe never good as Marcus Camby, Tyson Chandler, and that's kind of why I want to move these guys up, is because I think they just had better overall careers. I'm going to do some adjusting here, but Marvin had a good and long career. Never was great, Good long career. I'm going B tier. LaMarcus Aldridge, A tier, easy A tier. Honestly, guys, LaMarcus Aldridge was so good. Nah, and this is why I can't have Marcus Camby and Tyson Chandler at A tier, because they were not as good as LaMarcus Aldridge. They just weren't. LaMarcus Aldridge, a certified bucket getter, did it for so long. A tier is where he belongs, unquestioned. Kevin Durant, pretty self-explanatory. One of the best scorers of all time. AZ addition into S tier, and honestly, maybe one of the better guys at S tier. It's tough. All the guys at S tier easily deserve it. It's crazy when you go back and look at how good Michael Beasley's third season in the league was. It was actually really good on really good efficiency, but he just really never panned out. I don't even feel like putting him at C tier. D tier is where Beasley does belong. Super skilled. Just never figured it out. I think this is disrespectful to Darko putting Thabit at the same tier as him, but I don't have a choice. Like, both are F tier. Thabit may be the worst number 2 pick of all time. Evan Turner had some decent years, so I'm gonna put him at C tier. He was impactful to winning on some rosters. It just never really panned out. If you remember Evan Turner at Ohio State, he was so good in the NBA, never was to that level. Derek Williams, again, so promising out of college, never panned out. He's going to go in D tier, was out of the league by the age of 27. It's just kind of crazy. When people come into the league as number 2 picks, you expect them to be great, and a lot of them just don't pan out. MKG had some young promise in his young career. He really did. Finished, I think, a DPOY candidate, top 10 in one of his seasons. The lack of a jump shot really turned his career upside down. When you talk about injuries, Victor Oladipo is at the forefront of them. And again, I want to rank Oladipo A tier because at his peak, at his prime, was that good. But I just don't even think I can. Steve Francis was good for like 4 years. I don't know. I'm going to put Oladipo at A tier though. I am. Because in his prime, he was that good as a number 2 pick. I feel like a lot of these guys in their young careers get a lot of promise, or have a lot of promise, are given a lot of chances. Jabari Parker is another one of those guys. Young career, did some things, played some, pretty important minutes as well. I'm going to go C tier though. I think that's where Jabari does belong. Not a total bust like some of these guys, but just obviously not great. D'Angelo Russell, Nish is going to put him at C tier. I don't feel, he's B tier. He's a B tier player. He's been fine. Been on some really good teams, was an all-star, and has played, again, some impactful basketball. Just too streaky for my liking. I think he's going to have a long career, though. D'Lo fits in B tier really well. Brandon Ingram. I'm going to start putting guys where I think they're going to end up. I'm going to put him at A tier. I think I'm going to move Oladipo down. I don't like him at A tier. I think Brandon Ingram is going to end up at A tier, and here's why. No, I don't. Because when I talk about Marcus Camby and Tyson Chandler, I don't even think he's to that level. I think I'm going to put Brandon Ingram at B tier. He scores the ball well, but I'm going to need to see more out of him as far as an overall player. Lonzo Ball, putting him at D tier. He has played some good basketball when he's been healthy, but the guy hasn't played in 2 years. I'm sorry, if this is where Lonzo Ball career ends, he's going to go down in D tier. Marvin Bagley, D tier. I mean, he is close, in my opinion, to being out of the league. Just don't see the potential of Marvin Bagley. Maybe I'll move Alonzo up because he has played some solid basketball when he's been healthy. Ja Morant up next. I think he's going to go down as an A tier player. He has potential even to be S tier. Ja Morant, I think people forget, he's already been all NBA second team just 2 years ago. If he can fix off the court issues and stay healthy, I think he's going to end up at A tier. James Wiseman, F tier. I mean, I'm not even going to expand on it. It's pretty self-explanatory right there. Jalen Green, I think he's going to go down at B tier. I do. I was a Jalen Green hater when he first came in the league. Has shown some big-time scoring promise for the Houston Rockets and with their young core. I'm going to go B tier. Chet Holmgren, obviously he had to miss his first season with injuries, but I do believe he's going to go down as being a really good NBA player. Playing on a winning Oklahoma City Thunder team, leading them to the 1 seed in his rookie season. The only reason he wasn't Rookie of the Year is because of this freak of nature named Victor Wembanyama. Last but certainly not least, Brandon Miller also showed a ton of promise. I'm not as high on him as I am some other guys, but I do think B tier is the right spot when we're talking about his future and where I think he's going to end up. That's going to wrap it up for me, ranking every number 2 overall pick since the merger. in NBA history. Let me know your thoughts on this ranking list down below in the comments, guys. Drop a like on it, subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.